Welcome to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we talk to the wrestling community about their perspectives, beliefs, and techniques in the sport. In this show, we chop it up with Cliff Fretwell of Compound Wrestling. He discusses the personalities and promotion of the sport. He previews the Elite 8 duels and how it came about. And Cliff also dips into his Fretwell Holdings and the principles behind Compound Wrestling. You can find this video show and past episodes on YouTube, or if you're more of the audio type, head over to your favorite podcast platforms. What's going on, Cliff?
What's up, brother?
How you been?
Second try at this. I bailed on you the first time.
It's all right. It's all good, man. I missed you this summer. So I was like, man, I got to catch up with you. So
yeah, man. I did not get my Sandusky bike week. I was actually talking to who was it? It wasn't Hivner. Who what? Doggone! I was talking to somebody. It might have been when I was at Who's Number One. Oh, it was Shoemate's dad.
okay.
We were hanging out in the lobby with Shoemate, and he was talking about. He's mentioned Sandusky or something, and I was like, I got a talking point with you here. So I thought we were talking about bike week for a second. He's a good dude.
I know it wasn't as cool as you thought it'd be. I think you could see where it was headed, and you could tell how uncomfortable I was.
You primed me for some like really scandalous type stuff, and like I just saw normal people drinking beer, dancing on poles, and like being punk rock. Like it's kind of my scene for a little bit.
I think we got out of there at the right time, though. You could tell I was a little uncomfortable, right? I was like, let's go.
No, you look like you were right at home. Don't lie to these people.
Right.
You were in your element, bro. Every time we went 10 feet, somebody'd stop you. You knew everybody.
They thought I was my brother, so it wasn't me.
Whatever.
I got to get you back up, though, next time we go to the islands, though. Get Matty B to come up.
We do.
Then you're going to have some stories from that.
Take in all of that.
Right. So, no, thanks for joining us. Give us a little rundown when you wanted to get back into coaching, or how that came about, getting into the coaching of wrestling.
So, I mean, I didn't have the high school career that I'd visioned I would have. Never won a state title, and my senior year, it kind of stuck with me. Like I was one of those guys that, like, if you told me to run through a brick wall 15 times a day to get good, I would do it. But one thing that, and I'm not making any excuses, but one thing that I struggle with is like just there was one private training facility, which was Arturo's. I didn't have the money to go to a private training facility, so like I would cut grass and do some odds and ends stuff, and my parents would take me or whatever. They were super supportive of everything I did. It was just a lot of times it was a financial thing. So like I felt like I lacked some means, to get to where that the kids are today. And it was just so scarce in Georgia. And there was just such a small group of kids that were traveling and going and seeking out other, competition and training and stuff like that. And I just didn't have the means. So like I was a little more limited. And I just, my career just didn't pan out the way I wanted to. And it kind of left me a little, I don't want to say salty, but it kind of left me feeling like I had a little unfinished business. So I went to Georgia State. They had a Division I team at the time, and walked on, screwed around with that for a little bit. And it was just, I just kind of lost my fire for it. So I moved on, went to Art Institute of Atlanta. I got a degree in 3D animation and design. And while I was going to school, I would run into some of those people that were still in the scene and like, man, you should do this, you should do that, you should get involved. And I did some Team Georgia type stuff, some Fargo trips and things like that, just to kind of scratch the itch a little bit, but still was not 100%, man, like I want to be back in wrestling. So I floundered a little bit, and then I was fighting a little MMA and kind of got sucked into that world. And my oldest son, Anthony, came home one day with a flyer for wrestling in middle school. And it was a middle school coach that I respected a ton. His name was Bruce Towson. And he was like one of the best middle school. And again, we're in Georgia. So like saying good middle school coach was like a big deal. Like most middle school coaches were like, didn't even know how to spell wrestling, right? So to have a guy that knew wrestling and, and developed really good wrestlers. He was at a middle school called Henry County Middle School that fed to Henry County High School, which Marty Hutzel was the head coach at Henry County High School. And he was like, he's like the legendary high school coach in
Okay.
Georgia. There's two guys that are pretty much associated with being like legendary high school coaches, and Marty was it. Well, problem with that is I hated Marty Hutzel. Like, he was just this fiery, crazy Bobby Knight type coach. And he coached at McIntosh when I was in high school. And I always saw his antics, and I was just like, this guy's a clown. I don't want to be anywhere near him. I'm definitely not going to let my son wrestle for the middle school that feeds into this. So, like, he comes home, he gives this flyer, and I'm talking with Stephanie about it, and I'm just like, I don't see Anthony wrestling. I don't know if he's tough enough to wrestle, but, like, we'll see. He's kind of a mama's boy. So, and I reached out to Bruce Towson, and I was like, hey, Anthony wants to wrestle, long time no see. Like, I'll come help. And little did I know, like, the middle school and the high school practiced in the same room. So, like, day one, I'm in the room with Marty, and I'm just like, shit, like, what have I done? Like, I don't like this guy. Like, and 6 months down the road, I got to know Marty so much better. And, like, he was like the first guy that really started mentoring me as a coach and teaching me how to coach different backgrounds of kids and dynamics of athletes, and like just to watch the science of how he developed a kid out of the hallway to a state placer, and we're not talking about taking a kid from not knowing how to drop step and making him a Division I national champ. But what he did is he gave some of these kids purpose that like never would have had purpose in a sport. That wasn't good enough to be a rock star on a football or a basketball team or one of the mainstream sports at school, but he made them part of a brotherhood. And he knew how to get those kids literally out of the hallways and make them state placers and make them, in some cases, some of these kids were making state finals and being state champs. And I just kind of dove right into it, man. And I listened to every word he said, every speech he had, and I lived on everything he said. And then, I realized at some point, after Anthony graduated and Cameron wasn't wrestling, that like I still wanted to coach, but I needed to kind of go carve my own path and like develop my own style and figure out, how I wanted to do it. I had all these fundamentals that I took from Marty, and he didn't always have the method that I would approve of, but dang, this dude's winning team titles. He's putting 3, 4, 5 guys in the state finals every year. Like, he's doing stuff right. But there were some things that like, man, I would probably do that different, or that's not me at my core, how I would communicate to a kid. And, and obviously back then, early 2000s, fast forward to where we are now, like some of that stuff, he just lost his job straight up for,
right.
like,
different
we're
times.
living in a little bit different world. And, it's just one of those things like with me and, me and Marty, and like the more I was in the trenches with him, the more he kind of trusted me. Like at first it was like, hey, I need an assistant coach and I need somebody like, that can be that guy, and I was a JV coach for like 2 years. Like, and I loved it, like I was coaching these JV kids. Like I was like, it was a freaking, team that was going to win state finals that year. And I think that was one of the things that like a lot of coaches, they feel like the JV role is like, okay, well, I got to do my time here and pay my dues so I can be the varsity coach. Like, and I just approached it a little bit different in a sense of like, I took pride in the fact that I was prepping these kids to be a part of the next level, which is what Marty was creating, and we won a handful of team state titles and had tons of individual state champs. But like, I took pride in, hey, this is the development phase to get these kids prepped for Marty's system when they're starting. And as I get to see some of those kids that were JV freshman, sophomore year, and then be starters their junior year and like contribute to the team, I think that's what really got me hooked. It's like, look, I'm helping these kids set themselves up for success long-term in the sport if they want to, based off of being able to focus specifically on this group of JV guys. And we had numbers, man. That's one thing Marty did, man. He would legitimately recruit kids out of the hallway, and he wasn't scared. He'd walk up to kids and be like, hey, man, you're not going to make the basketball team, dude. Come wrestle. Like
right.
he didn't mince
straight
words.
Shooter.
He was a straight up guy. And some of those kids, they wouldn't because of the singlet and this, that, and the other. But, he would get kids in that room. I'd be like, Marty, I don't even know if this kid should be on the team. Like, he's bad news, like he's just not, he could be a cancer for this team. And like, he just had a knack for getting those kids on a straight line and staying on top of them every day. And like, it just, it opened my eyes to like being able to legitimately change some people's lives just by giving them an avenue to be great or to chase greatness. And like, I think a lot of times Marty didn't even look at it that way. Like Marty was driven to win. Like he wanted to win more than anything, and me, I wanted the kids to just have something to look forward to succeeding at. And I think it was a good balance, but yeah, that kind of got me going. Cause I remember like I was helping with the middle school, and like he came up to me, and this was still like I was just getting to know him. And he came up to me one day towards the end of the season. He was like, "You're running my freestyle club this summer." And I'm just like, "Oh shit." Like, I don't really know how to coach freestyle. Like, and I like I immediately that night got online. I bought the Bruce Burnett syllabus, the VHS tapes off the USA Wrestling website. I was one of the only few freestyle technique tapes you could get, and I literally ran that freestyle club off those videotapes for probably 2-3 years until I actually learned how to teach technique and coach technique on my own,
Nice.
but I'll never forget that day. He's like, "You're running my freestyle club this summer." I'm like, "I'm not telling him no, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'll figure it out." And like, we had a freaking banger club. I mean, we had that Southeast group and some of those Northside kids that come down, and like, we just had a great group of kids, and I just learned how to coach by kind of faking how to coach for a little bit. But yeah, and then here we are today.
Yeah, here we are today. Speaking of that, it's going to be aired a little bit later, but yesterday, the whole the Twitter world, you're obviously, the big stars in the sport and everything, that JBDT. Don't want this to be current events or any conspiracy theories, but do you think that was staged?
Well, here's the deal. You've seen these guys over the years struggle to not be humble. And that's one thing that our sport has kind of hamstrung guys into. If you try to create a personality, and there's a big difference between personality Pat Downey and personality, Jordan Burroughs,
Right.
and I think that needs to be said, because there's a proper way to go about promoting yourself and creating some type of competitive tension between you and one of your rivals, as opposed to just being a completely off the charts, right? So like, and I think these guys, there's two things happening. You got promotional companies like Flow and Track, and you got Kale doing the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club thing. Now you got Track doing the thing with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. And some of these guys are getting coached a little bit and be like, look, like, the more viewers you get, the more money you make, the more money everybody makes, the more often we can do these things. So get off your butts, promote this stuff, and let's all make it big, and let's all win together. And I think you're seeing a combination of a little bit of coaching. I don't necessarily think people are typing the tweets up for them, but right. I think people are coaching them and saying, hey, we're going to put 25 grand out here for an 8-man tournament. But in lieu of that 25 grand for the eight-man tournament, you guys got to do your part and help blow this thing up. And, I don't think they're saying, okay, well, you're going to be the bad guy and you're going to be the good guy and this, that, and the other. But I think some of these guys are starting to find their way, because I saw that first tweet and I text David and I'm like, you're in your feels a little bit tonight. I was like, what prompted that? And he's like, hey man, he was like, if he wants to wrestle a legit 86, like, I'm going to ask him to come on up and let's do it. He said, it's not 2014 anymore. Ooh. And I'm just like, I'm cool with that. That wasn't disrespectful at all. And then, JB comes back with the Magic Man. And that was just like, just bazookas fired. And then I don't know where the Wikipedia thing came from, but that was pretty doggone hilarious. But I'm surprised David maybe David cut his losses and was like, man, right. I got hammered twice in a row. But, it's good. I think it's good. I think at some point, like, as the sport evolves, we have to get over I don't like the fact that he called that guy out. Well, you know what? You'll watch a UFC fight and believe all that hype and tune into all the stuff. And you'll watch the NFL and watch all these pregame interviews and watch the stuff and think it's okay. Why is it not okay for wrestling? That's my thing. And again, the more money Flow can make, the more shows they're going to put on. The more shows they put on, we all freaking win. So stop whining and complaining. And here's the deal. The turds in our sport, eventually put themselves in a spot, and I'm not going to name any names, but they eventually put themselves in a spot where they're not relative anymore, and
Right.
and we cleanse our sport from those guys.
Just
So
like anything in life, right? Kind of
100%. So let those guys be turds. They're going to be on the street looking for B-level MMA fights in a couple months. So like,
right.
Do I think it was staged? No. Do I think it was highly encouraged? Yeah, absolutely. And I think those guys are starting to realize the landscape of promotion now. And that's true
Right.
promotion. You know,
Right.
that's just not chirping on Twitter. You know, these guys are backing it up. And you even see guys like, you know, Reese Humphrey, he's getting back in the fold. You know, if guys are exciting, I think at some point you can't ignore the entertainment factor they bring. So like, I'm all about it. And I'm excited that that's the way our sport's heading, and it's growing, and, you know, and there's money in it. And we've always complained there's been lack of funds. So Flow or Track can't go to the higher ups and say, hey, you know, we want to do this show. And they're going to be like, well, you want us to put up 25 grand, but you're only going to make 5. Like, that's terrible business. No, we're not going to do it. Now they're saying, hey, we had 50,000, you know, viewers, and 25 of those were new subscribes. So yeah, we doubled our money. We'll do 25 grand 8-man tournaments till we're blue in the face, you know, so it's simple business. But we've got to get to that point where it's sustainable. You know, that's the whole key, is sustainable. I mean, it's just like you with your business and your tournaments. Like, if you were losing 10 grand every time you put on a tournament, like, you wouldn't put on any more tournaments.
Right,
you know?
right.
But if you lost 5 grand and then your next tournament you made 10 and your next tournament you made 25, like, that's different. You know what I'm saying? But it's been the latter for so many years, right? Just diehard guys making a couple grand here and there just to put on a tournament, you know, and that it just can't be the landscape.
Well, we came, you know, from 2008, come a long ways, right? Guys sticking with another cycle, they're sticking to the sport, whatever it may be. And it's changed quite a bit. I mean, even the last couple of years, right? So yeah, I think we're definitely on the right path. Obviously with everything that's gone on in 2020, you know, where do you see it in 10 years? You know, we got, you know, all these platforms now, you know, COVID, you know, impacting certain tournaments this year. I guess, you know, you got a business mind. Where do you see it in 10 years?
Well, unlike some people like scaling back, I decided I'm just going to put together an event in the middle of all this. So like, I see it getting bigger and better, man. And I see more opportunities than just the 2 major, you know, streaming services. And I think you'll see more, and I don't mention Rockfin as a streaming service because, you know, and I love Martin, and you can't deny what Martin's done, not only just for the sport of wrestling, but just technology in general. And with Rockfin, man, the platform's great. And I think there's some things that we got to work out, and some of them got exposed during the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club thing, you know, with spreading the wealth and certain people signing up for different contributors instead of Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, you know, and if people don't know what I'm talking about, so basically Rockfin is a platform that I put up content.
It's like a YouTube, right?
Sign up for Rockfin and pick me as a contributor. They're the reason why they signed up. Then I get the lion's share of the sign up, and then I get ongoing recurring payments based off how much of my content is viewed by everybody on the platform. So it's kind of like the better the platform gets, the more everybody makes money. But with Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, they did one event, and you could sign up as me. You could sign up and contribute me and watch the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event. Well, if I just drop 20 grand to put an event and everybody signed up under Willie and I didn't get that lion's share back, that sucks for me. You know what I'm saying? It's not a guaranteed, I'm going to let 500 people through the door and I know what I'm making off those 500 people coming through the door. So that's one of those things where it's a great idea, but I think it needs some refinement. You know, in Flow and Track, they are who they are. You know, they've been a mainstay in the streaming service for a long time. But I think you're going to start to see people realizing how easy it is to stream. We're doing the Elite 8 duels with a completely third-party disconnected platform than anybody else. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to give it away this first time. I'm instantly regretting that as I'm getting the rosters sent to me.
There's some sick lineups,
but again,
man.
Yeah, it will lose some of those guys between now and then, but I mean, still, even if we lose a handful of them, it's still going to be bananas. But like with me, it's the Gary Vaynerchuk model. We're going to jab, 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 right hook. So this first event's going to be soup to nuts, top shelf, I'm going to give it away on the stream. And another reason I'm giving away the stream is it's a new venture for me and a new platform for me. So if it sucks, then at least they can't complain too much because I'm giving it away. If I'm charging, $8.99 and we hiccup and sucks, we know how that goes in the wrestling community. You will get absolutely annihilated. So, part of it's business, but part of it's too, like, I want these people to see the event, see the quality of the event, and not only, more people want to come and be a part of it, but they're going to tune in next time, whether we're charging, $5 or no bucks. And, I think you're going to see a lot more technology play a role in being able to promote events and stream events. And, even though we got the two big guys with Track and Flow, I think you're going to see some people starting to break off and rival them a little bit, not put them out of business, not steal a huge bit of market share, but dude, technology's easy, man. Like who would have thought 2 years ago, me and you would be, Zooming, talking wrestling right now, but it's so easy for you, whether you say you're not super technologically advanced or not. It's easy for you to like download an app and flip open your laptop and all of a sudden, wham, you got a radio show,
Right.
So like, it's only going to continue to get better and better.
Right. So that Elite 8 duels coming up in November, right?
Yep.
Jump on Instagram, search Elite 8 duels, find more information. I know you got some Ohio guys coming down, right?
Yep.
Obviously, I'm
We
from
got a
Ohio.
handful.
So.
I think some of them are on Poway and then some of them are on handful of other teams. But yeah, I mean, it started out as kind of a conversation with me and Shane Chittum, Cody Chittum's dad, who just wrestled at Who's Number One. We're just drinking some beers and this Minion team so myself and LA Ruffin back in early 2000 started the GNWA, which we were just dragging high school kids around the country because my oldest son was in high school and there just wasn't a lot of opportunities for them to travel. So we started dragging a bunch of these kids around the country. And then LA, Justin's in middle school in LA. It was like, man, well, let's do this for the youth. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's start a youth movement. So we called it Team Minion. And over the years, it's been handed down to different parents and they've kind of taken it over. But like where we started from, all those kids like, Caleb Henson and McCrary and Singleton and all these kids have been traveling together for, 8+ years now. I was like, man, it'd be cool to get them together as a high school team and like send them off against some really tough teams. And Shane was like, well, I could get Cali Gold and I could get this team and Buxton and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, you ain't going to get all those teams to come. I was like, if you get all those teams to come, I'll give you a week and a half. You get all those teams to commit, I'll do the rest. I'll plan the event. I'll do all the dirty work. So week later, here I am like, God dang it, man. Now I got to plan a freaking big old event in the middle of this disaster of a COVID thing going on. But yeah, it's going to be.
So is that why you're giving it away free? So you don't got to do it again?
Huh?
Is that why you're giving it away free? You don't got to do it again. You can show, hey,
no,
we didn't make any money.
Dude, this thing's picked up an immense amount of steam that I couldn't have imagined, especially which we're in a kind of a good time right now. Cause I was talking to Mike Mal about it at Who's Number One. I'm just like, man, I think I just hit at the right time. Cause everybody wants to wrestle, and everybody's starving for competition, but we announced the Elite 8 duels, and then a week later, NHSCA announced they're doing theirs on the same weekend. So immediately I was like, man, we're going to get hammered. And I expected some of those teams to drop off, but most of those guys were like, look, we'd rather go and know we're getting 7 elite duels for real than getting 4 okay duels and then 2 or 3 elite duels at the end of the tournament. And I think that's why this has got some legs to be sustainable long-term, is because I mean, we've gotten a couple kids. I'm not going to make definite calls yet, but we've had a couple kids reach out, to try to get on teams that didn't have the Who's Number One that they wanted. Well, Shoemate being one of them. He's definitely on a team now. He's coming with Jaron Beats' team, but like his dad and him hit me up and we're like, hey, we want another shot at Piccolo. We need to get on a team. So we've had a couple other kids from Who's Number One and be like, look, we know they're going to be there. We don't want to go somewhere else and maybe wrestle them. We want to come here and know we're wrestling.
For sure.
And I think that's why it has some legs to it. And, if we do it right, it's on us, man. It's on, I mean, the wrestling product's going to be great, but it's on us to give them a red carpet event, take care of the coaches and the athletes, make them feel special, which, Flo did an amazing job this weekend, just getting to watch what those kids get to experience for the 2.5 days. Like, it was awesome. I mean, they did an amazing job. So hats off to them, but we got to kind of do the same thing, and I would love it for be Compound Sportswear to be able to provide every uniform for all those guys coming in at a basement cost, but like, we've got to get to that point yet. I got to be able to justify that financially, but I think there's a ton of room there to grow.
Nice. You have any good IPAs lately? You mentioned some beers. Get anything good down there?
No, not really. I'll be honest with you. During quarantine, I purposely didn't drink a single IPA because I knew the minute I got a taste for an IPA during quarantine, I would be 4,000 pounds coming out. So I'm so proud of myself that I didn't drink one IPA. I drank a good bit of Apple Crown. I will say that. I binge watched Ray Donovan, and I told myself, in order for me to be tough like Ray Donovan, I got to drink whiskey. So I couldn't drink crazy whiskey because I ain't that tough. So Apple Crown, and I didn't touch an IPA till I think things started getting back to a little bit of normal. But nah, man, they got some Tropicali at the place down the street from me a while back, which they don't normally have. So when they do, I stock up on it. But nah, man, not really, because I haven't been traveling too much. So normally when I travel, I get some good IPAs. But no, I think I this past weekend, like, I maybe got like a Stone IPA. Nothing crazy, nothing local, Cool. So I gotta step my game back up on that, but not too hard, man, because I'm still a little soft from quarantine. I'm coming down. I'm coming down from quarantine. Oh, dude, I got fat. I'm not gonna say the number, but like, I was putting my socks on one morning, and I was like,
felt a little tight.
This is not a healthy feeling. Like, I can't reach my feet. Like, what's going on? That was my cue to like get my head out of my rear end.
Oh, at least you recognize that, right? And had a good plan. Who knows if you had IPAs, right? If you had the IPAs, it could be a little different, right?
Yeah. So like, me and Stephanie were like, well, we got our own gym, so we can work out. Let's get on a schedule, just me and you. And that was good for about 2.5 weeks. And after that, it was just like, what? I feel like everybody else is sitting on their rear ends. Let's do the same thing. And it just went away.
You could have you would have known if my daughter spit on your shoe if you could have bent over, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Remember that story? Or what? I didn't see it. You got to tell me, because I didn't really feel me, because you're kind of like embarrassed and didn't want to say anything.
No, like I think like you were loading that stuff up, and then I was like in the back of the truck or whatever, and then I went to go grab some stuff to help you, and she like ran over and she's like, "No, that's our stuff," and then just like spit on my foot. I'm like, okay, I won't touch it.
She's like 4 or something. You had some high dollar shoes on, right?
Dude. I just know I was awkward because I didn't want her to get in trouble. Like, you bring a guest into your house and your kid spits on their foot, like, you want to kill them. Like, I would have done that with my grandkids. I don't want to.
She needed it. You should have.
And then you were just like, what did you do? I'm like, no, don't kill her. Don't kill her. She's so sweet and cute and innocent. Don't do it.
Yeah, 3 years later, she's still that ornery. But no, I was like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, it's like you feel like that's a direct reflection on your entire family when your kid acts out. You get so embarrassed. I've been there.
No, it's fun. You have Fretwell Holdings. What's the tip for? Some buy and hold. I want some buy and holds. Some buy and hold stuff.
So stock market. And this is another cool thing. Like, everybody's got cool stories out of quarantine or whatever. And I've always I played crypto a little bit, never really played stock a lot. I kind of started getting some crypto probably about 2-3 years ago. So my oldest son, he wrestled at Indiana. He gets a computer informatics degree and like just ends up being a whiz in the programming security system industry. He's killing the game, doing well, but he's got a very analytical brain. Like, I'm a very creative, visual brain, and he's a very, analytical ones and zeros type brain. And like, it was probably first of the year. We talk a lot of crypto, and he wrote a couple, scripts and some bots and stuff, and we were trying to trade crypto automatically and stuff. We've always had these little side projects that we've done, but when the quarantine hit, it was like he was starting to look in the stock market more and like learn the stock market. Me, I don't watch the news. I watch zero news. I hate the news. I just want to live in my own little private Idaho. And like, if the world's burning around me, like, I'm still cool as a fan, right? So I never watch the news. Can barely add. I went to public school, and then Anthony starts getting me involved in like thinking about like finance and, world trade markets and things like that. And then we start having these little weekly calls about stocks, and we're doing some research, and like, it was me and Jordan, one of our designers at Compound Sportswear, and Anthony, him and Jordan wrestled in high school together. I've known the kid forever. So like, we start really getting into stocks, and we started like making some strategies on like what stocks. So like, Jordan was researching, like gambling and online gaming, like DraftKings and like, things like that, and LCA and some of these other stuff. And I was kind of more in the biotech, and then Anthony was kind of in this like transportation kind of world, like Tesla and a lot of those stuff. So we all kind of had our main markets, and then we were just exchanging information on our Wednesday night calls, and then we all just kind of made a decision we're going to start buying some stuff. And it's been fun, man. It's made me really get more in tune with the financial market. Like, I just play CNBC all day long and just keep my ear to the grindstone on what's going on. And it's actually given me pretty good perception on, finance, and, I got a business, you know what I'm saying? And
right.
I'm affecting my business right now. And I don't watch the news, but I'm watching, financial news all day. So it's kind of helped me get a better, clear picture of what's going on in the world, and maybe how I need to refine my business a little bit. But the stock market trading's been pretty daggone fun. Like, I'm really like into it now. So I made some post, and like Griffin Perriott like text me. We DM every now and then. He like sent me a message, and we started talking. And like, me and him every day, we're talking about stocks and crypto and this, that, and the other. So it started out as kind of a joke, the Perriott Fretwell Holdings LLC thing. But like, and Mark Fitzgerald up in New York, who's always posting the crazy, workout videos, he actually works on Wall Street.
Okay.
So he's a trader. And I met him through Mike Mal a while back. So like, I've been kind of hitting him up a little bit too. I try not to bug him too much. But it's been fun, man. I've actually enjoyed it. It's like one of those things when you kind of get involved and want to learn new stuff later in life, or an area of your life you never thought you would. It's been kind of fun, and I get to do it with my son too, and he's smarter than me at it. So it's like he's teaching me for a change. So it's been cool. If
that's
Tesla
what I was gonna say.
Go up, I'm in great shape. Tesla's stalled out, but I got some pretty good retail stocks. I'm doing all right. But last week, 2 weeks ago was pretty nasty. Everybody took a major hit.
Yeah. No, that's cool. You spend some time with your son, and outside of wrestling, so it's a little different conversations. I'm sure. So that's pretty cool. Keeping in touch.
Yeah, I wish I would have done that more when he was wrestling, because every conversation we had when he was wrestling was about wrestling.
Yeah, no, and I just had Dustin Myers on, and just telling stories. When you talk things, you kind of like, I don't know if it's a sign of getting old, but you think, man, that it jars up some memories, and that's when my dad's dad, he didn't come to any of my sporting events, but he was all about that stock market. And, we were young, teaching us little things, not really teaching us, but kind of setting examples, hey, gifting us stocks and things like that. And I hear stories from my dad of like, he was making more money in the stock market than he had his own business too. So he had that entrepreneurial mind, but he was, in the stock market. And then, when you're 8 years old getting stocks, like, what do I want that for? And then you get to be, 20, 30, and like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. When can I cash this in, y'all?
yeah. Right. No. So that's cool. So
I remember getting the little bond notes from my grandmother, and I'm just like, why is she giving me a piece of paper? I would rather have an ugly sweater. Like, this is trash, And then, like you said, you get older, and it's like, whoa, this is worth $1,000. Like, I'm cool with that. Thanks, Grandma.
Right. So I'm trying to do that with my kids and stuff too, but it's not as easy, so.
No, it's not. It's not. Cameron, my youngest son, actually called me today. He's like, hey, if I give you like $300 a month, can you invest it for me? And I'm like, dude, I'm still learning this, man. Don't put me as the standard right now. I was like, you need to invest your own deck.
You learn. Yeah, that's the way you learn, right? Get some skin in the game and learn,
man.
Right?
No chance.
So I talk a little compound wrestling. You had a Fargo girl champ, Amani Jones last year.
Amani won it last year. She was our first champ
ever
in the club history. We've had some guys go pretty deep,
Okay.
Even though they're not, they're wrestling for a different club now, like, guys like McCrary and stuff like that. He's probably placed 6-8 times at this point. He was one of our OG early guys. Justin Ruffin, I think he 4 or 5. We've had a good deal of success there, and we've put a good bit of effort into our freestyle program. I mean, when April 1st hits, we're 100% freestyle until after Fargo. We don't change the folk style, and we've actually lost a lot of members because of that. And I've had parents and kids and coaches, point blank tell us, hey, if you're going to do nothing but freestyle, my kids aren't going to come. And, me and Roper early on made a decision that, hey, we're just going to do freestyle. It's a good change of pace for those kids. It's a skill set they need to have. And we were in a unique position to where, in perspective, to where we didn't have to make a whole lot of money. Roper lived super simple and didn't care about money. And I was still freelancing, or working at ad agency for a while until, we both were full time, and I was still freelancing a little bit, but like we were in a unique situation to where like we didn't have to compromise and stay folk style to keep the numbers, but to watch our kids now, have a complete skill set, whether they're great at wrestling or not, but knowing our kids have a complete skill set, from having those seasons every year. I think it's important. I know it's scary. Some coaches don't coach freestyle because they don't know how, or it's foreign to them and they just stay in their comfort zone. Some don't because they lose a lot of members, or people don't want to wrestle freestyle, or kids will be like, I ain't losing to some kid in freestyle that I could beat in folk style, and you have to convince them why that's important. I'll never forget Sean Russell. He was a big part of our North Gym for a while. And, he would never wrestle freestyle, and Jeff Bedard every year. And Jeff coached him from day one. I mean, I remember seeing Jeff with those kids when they were almost in diapers at wrestling tournaments. And I remember he would constantly, want Sean to wrestle freestyle. And I remember the first freestyle tournament Sean came out to, he lost to a kid that he would annihilate in folk style. And I was like, I saw him walking out off the mat, and I was like, he's either going to let it motivate him, or he's going to let it, discourage him from growing as an athlete. And I remember he stayed the course, and, look at him now. He's up at Minnesota wrestling for Storm. And, I'm sure if you talk to him about it, it would be something that he would say, yeah, it sucked. It was humbling. I don't like losing to kids I know I can beat in a different rule set, but it forced him to get better in an area he wasn't great at, and I think that's important for kids and coaches. And I mean, like, and I'm not saying I'm the gold standard by any stretch, but like, I'll even post technique that I don't even know if I'm showing it right. And I'll have coaches DM me all the time on the Compound Instagram and be like, man, like I struggle with it. Like Buck Watkins. I got more respect for Buck Watkins than he'll ever know, just because that guy will go anywhere and do a camp. He'll do a camp for 3 kids. He'll do a camp
I have him coming on in a couple of weeks, or a couple of days, I should say.
He is just a student of the game and just loves impacting lives. Like, I truly believe that everything he puts out on social media is not just as a grandstand type thing. That guy truly is salt of the earth cat. And, he would be like, man, hopefully one day I can post technique. He's like, right now I'm not comfortable. I was like, you think everything I post, I think is the perfect way to teach it? I was like, you'd be shocked how many people, like, I was showing that slide by stuff, and like Brian Snyder texted me, and I'm blessed that guys like that will reach out to me.
Or giving you that
and
feedback,
he gave me a couple tips here and there. And I'm like, you know what? If I would have never posted that, then I would have never know how to clean it up a little bit.
Right.
Or if I just posted and be like, this is the way to do it, don't at me, then I never get that feedback. And I'll even post experimental technique. Like, we were just playing around with this. Like, don't take this as a fundamental, and I'll get some stuff from people be like, dude, why are you showing this? But like, for the most part, it's like, like good feedback, and it's tough to put yourself out there. I mean, in a world right now where like people judge your life by what you put on social media, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could truly convince everybody I'm super poor or super rich, or I know famous people when I really don't. Like, we can fabricate that. So like, it's a world we're living in right now where there's a lot of judgment based off the content we put out. And I think that's a tough threshold for some people to get past when they're putting out technique, because people can be mean as hell on freaking social media. But like with me, it's like, come along for the journey. This is what I'm working with my guys. If you hate it, you hate it. If you like it, you like it. If you want to give me some input on it, give me some input on it, and I'll take it, So like, I think that's important to recognize, and just, that helps me, that helps me progress as a coach,
Right. So what do I got to ask Buck? I think I'm having him 2 days from now. What should I ask him?
Man, I just want to know where his motivation comes from. I mean, he seems like an extremely motivated, very, very aware individual. I've never seen one thing he's put up, that doesn't just, kind of be like, man, you know what? I'm feeling that, you know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's a quote or whether it's a picture where he's at. And that's the thing is too, is like, I'm a big social media guy, and I know some people don't post a lot, but like, man, I appreciate a guy like that because I'm getting to follow his journey. You know, like I maybe had a couple conversations with that guy in person my whole life, but like I feel like I know him so well, and I get to follow his journey as a coach. And man, maybe looking back 10 years from now when he has his first, you know, Division I All-American or national champ or something like that, it's going to be like, man, I remember when this guy was like, you know, scared to put post technique. And here he is like, you know, a major player in the game, and he's grown his camp scene and things like that. Man, that's cool for me to watch. You know, that's inspiring for me to watch. I would really want to know, man, what makes you tick? What's your motivation? You know, and you know, maybe steal some of that secret sauce. I don't know.
Right. I guess what's compound wrestling's philosophy, if you just sum it up?
Man, I mean, our core mission statement when we started was to have a positive impact on our athletes' lives in every aspect. I mean, it was never wrestling related. And, you know, me and Roper's had some amazing mentors, you know, be around us from Jump Street. I was actually a guy named Charles Pike. He owns a bunch of law firms around south side of Atlanta, and his kids wrestled for us. I think Chad was a 3-timer. Chandler was a 2-timer. Chandler's in law school, and Chad's helping Heath Esslinger run A Better Way. They both went to NC State, and then Chad transferred to UTC, and then Chandler's at Auburn now. And neither one of them, I mean, Chandler didn't finish wrestling, but like you could see what their dad instilled in them, and he was a major influence on how we set up our business from a business aspect, but a lot of our philosophies too. To make sure that we knew what our blueprint was, you know, and he's like, you gotta have core values. You gotta have a mission statement. You gotta have something that keeps you on the train tracks as you're progressing in your business, whether it's wrestling technique, whether it's the way you mentor and talk to kids and interact with their parents. You know, we've had so many amazing people, you know, like him and John Nicolella and stuff like that being in our lives. It just helped us stay grounded, but also gave us ideas to grow. And, you know, it's not changed since then. I mean, the stakes have gotten higher as our wrestlers are gotten better. But the funny thing is now is like, I look back, you know, and I'm building that legends wall of like all the original kids that were at the compound. And it's about 32 kids, and looking back at that wall and seeing, you know, the Taylor Luhans and all these kids that have come through. And it's like, holy smokes, like we've been so blessed to even be around these kids and have their families trust us to grow them in that manner. But now I look at the room now, and it's like, I got Amani, I got her brother Reese, who's state champ. I got Sam Harris, and then I got Matthew Singleton. And then the rest of these kids are like 2 years in. Oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I need to run an elite practice for Matthew and some of these other guys, but like some of these other kids are still learning basic fundamental, you know, and tactics and strategies. And, you know, that going back to that add positive value to every aspect of their life, that doesn't change. Right. So like a Singleton, he needs to come in and I need to focus with him on working hard in position and focus and amount of reps and effort. And some of these other kids, it's like just feeling good about what they're doing for the day, you know, and then the work aspect and the technical aspect and cleanup will come along down the road. But when I got 35 kids in the room, how do I run one practice that everybody gets better from and grows? And I focus solely on growth. I don't focus on, you know, we got to get better at single legs today. Now that's a single standing like thing for the practice, but my main goal for practice is growth. You know, if you grow getting tougher and you didn't get technically better that day, we're growing. If you grew as a competitor when we wrestled live at the end of practice, you had some growth. You know, it might not have been across the board, but I focus on growth, and it's not a cop out because some days we ain't there technically. You know what I'm saying? Even the best guys go in the room and I'm just not feeling, my timing's off the day. Well, if I can get tougher, I'm still growing. If I only focused on my timing being off and that was it, and that's all I got from practice, then I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing my partner a disservice. I'm doing the room a disservice. So now that I look at the room and I'm like, look, I got to rebuild this thing again to back to where it was. And it's not going to be easy. It's not a 5-year process. It's a 10-year process. I got to start with these 6 and 7-year-olds. I got to get 20 of those kids, 10 of their parents are going to stick with me for a decade, like some of these kids have now. And I've got to do all of that over again in a completely different world. Because even though Luan's just out of college, the world he was coming up in middle school ain't the same world we're coming up in now.
Right.
You know, the technique's different. The society's different. The world's different. The tournaments are different. So like, I'm on a 10-year plan again. And that's what, you know, I talked to Stephanie about, and I'm like, look, I got to make a decision if I'm just going to kind of run wrestling practices and be a club coach, or if I'm going to commit to 10 more years. And you got to commit to it too,
Right.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
When I do something, you're doing it. And she knows.
Yep.
And I was like, I got to know that it's 10 years. It's not, how do I fabricate this and get some of these top national kids in my room right now so I can get back to where I'm at? Well, I didn't develop those guys. And those guys pop in every now and then too. But like, we're talking about getting back to heyday.
Right.
When compound wrestling rolled into a tournament and everybody knew we were there. You know what I'm saying? And we had the kids to back it up. You know, I'm 8-10 years from that. And I made the decision, you know, about a month ago. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I got my grandson, he's 3, or my oldest grandson's 3, and my youngest grandson's, you know, about to be 1, you know, and 10 years by then, I think I'll have them a good foundation, whether I'm coaching them or whether I'm involved in some aspect. And then I'll probably start scaling back a little bit and probably just try to enjoy their careers if they're still wrestling. You know what I'm saying? They might not wrestle at all. And I'll always be involved in the sport. But at some point, you know, I've got to learn, I've got to step away and, you know, enjoy. And I enjoy everything so much right now, just watching my athletes dream chase. And I get so much out of them achieving their goals. But I think probably 10 years down the road, it'll be time for somebody else with, you know, that fire and that motivation. Might be a kid that comes back to our club. I mean, I've tried to hire every kid that came through our club, Joey Laser, Jake Hodges, Lujan. Ain't none of them guys leave Iowa and come back home. So I'm not sending any more kids to you and I. Like, that's just it. Roper, you're cut off. Dude.
Yeah.
Like, they won't come home and help me. Gamble helps every now and then. You know, Hunter Gamble's awesome. He helps me every now and then. But, I mean, he's got his own life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
I know.
I'm not going to ask this guy to quit a finance job to come get in the trenches and make no money wrestling. But, man, it's so cool to come full circle. And I know you've been involved in it too, man. Like, until – and this is what I tell the kids a lot of time too, as being leaders and teammates. I said, until you do something for somebody in their life that they can never repay you for, then you'll never know what it's like to truly live in this world.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, that's wrestling. That's anything. And, you know, I have guys in my life, you know, like Shane Chittum, like Charles Pike, like L.A. Ruffin, like John Nicolello, that like, I can't repay those guys for them being in my corner for 13 years. And anytime I called about anything, not just wrestling related, they're there, you know, and they got advice for me and they got help for me. And, you know, and obviously Lee Roper, you know, on every level of that. But, you know, I think that's the one thing that we're missing in this world right now, man. We get salty when we see other people win. And damn it, man, if you can't get fired up about somebody else winning, like this is so trivial, but it's so damn awesome. Like this Dogface 209 guy. I don't know if you've seen the video.
No.
It's this dude riding on a skateboard, listening to Fleetwood Mac, drinking cran raspberry juice. And it went crazy viral on TikTok and Instagram. And Fleetwood actually posted a remake of it on his skateboard. And like this dude's like 30 million views. And if you go look at his Instagram account, it's just him dancing and throwing out good vibes. And like this dude's winning this week. He'll be gone in a couple weeks, but the dude is in the limelight. Everybody's talking about him and he's winning. And I'm watching the story unfold this week. And I'm so fired up for this dude. Like this dude ain't got money. Like he's not balling out of control. Like he's dancing these busted Nike wrestling shoes, just living life and loving it. And like, that's what you need to get behind and be like, dude, this guy's winning. If he wins for 3 weeks and then disappears forever, he got to enjoy that for 3 weeks. And like things like that in the world, immediately people want to crap on it and like be jealous of that guy. We got to flip the script and love the fact that guy's winning. And if he wins long-term, I'm going to be happy for him long-term. If he wins 3 weeks, I don't care. But like, that's the vibe I'm trying to get with my guys in the room right now is like, we got to come in here wanting everybody in this room to win. We got to come in here wanting everybody to grow as much as we want ourselves to grow. And then that's when people talk about culture and changing the culture and building a lifestyle. Like, but what the hell does that mean? What is the culture?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think a lot of times we say, let's build the culture or change the culture. It's going to take X amount of time. Well, what's the culture? What's your core values? What's your mission statement? Like, and I know that's a business aspect a lot of people take, but like, dude, you know, big companies don't become $1 trillion companies because they just had an idea and winged it for 30 years. You know, Apple had a vision, had a core, you know, values and mission statement, and they've continued to build off of it to trillions of dollars. Like, nothing's different in the game of wrestling or football or anything, you know. And once you build that brotherhood or sisterhood or whatever it is you're trying to do, man, like, that's unbreakable. Like, one turd can't come in your room and disrupt that. Just like one bad employee can't come in your room and disrupt that. And we spend so much time focusing on the technical aspects that we lose sight of two things. Currently, what their motivation is, and then what's the aftermath when they're done wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Because you've been around those coaches. They're throwaway kids when they graduate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this guy's going to give me as many wins as I can get him technically and competitively. But then when he graduates, I mean, if he ends up being a meth head, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, dude, I take more pride in those guys reaching back out to me about business advice than I do about what they did in their wrestling careers. You know, and it takes time to feel that, right? So a kid like Ryan Mosley, he was one of the toughest kids in our room to coach. He just danced to the beat of his own drum and like went to Gardner-Webb, qualified for NCAAs a couple times. Like, now he's running a sneaker store and a vintage apparel store, killing the game. I mean, killing it, making a lot of money. But like, dude, when he calls me and asks me about social media advice or business advice or whatever, man, it's the essential of me working on a takedown technique with him, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And to know that we still have that bond, and, you know, he's growing while I'm growing, and now we're kind of growing in the same world, the business world, the retail world and stuff. Dude, man, like, how can you not want to be a part of something like that? And people that aren't, man, I don't know, maybe they're wired wrong, maybe they're selfish, you know, and I'm not the guy to judge, but you felt it, man. You've watched a kid defeat the odds and achieve a goal. And like, you can't, I mean, you won a lot in your career. You were a freaking stud wrestler, but comparing watching somebody that you've been a part of their career versus what you did personally,
completely different feeling.
You can't interchange them.
Right.
You can't.
Right. No, thanks, man. You have anything else for us, man? Some good conversation.
I can talk all day, dude.
Oh, I know. No, I want to be respectful. I'll let you talk. People are tuning in to hear you, not me. They ain't tuning in to hear me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. I just appreciate you kind of taking a different aspect on this and trying to get guys. I mean, like I said, man, I'd love to hear what a guy like Buck Watkins, you know, talks about. And I guess I would guess if you talk to Buck, he feels like he's still in the development stage as a coach, and he doesn't give himself enough credit as being a full-blown coach.
He reached out to me on this, and I could sense that. But that's,
yeah,
you know,
and I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think it's just that he's still being a patient guy. And, you know, and I told him, dude, man, don't let the fear of what the perspective of the whole world's going to think of you putting stuff out there, man. Because those guys that are going to crap on you every time you're trying to win or trying to help somebody else win, man, they don't mean anything anyways. But like, there's a lot of current event podcasts, you know, there's a lot of meme podcasts. There's a lot of funny stuff out there. There's a lot of serious stuff out there, but you know, and I feel like a clown because me and Roper have talked about this a million times. We'll have an hour-long conversation and be like, that would have been a great podcast.
Right.
Let's run it back tomorrow. And then he gets busy and I get busy. And like, you know, we have so many cool in-depth conversations, and like, I need to get back to that, because I feel like some of the things that I can contribute and put out there could help some guys that are on the cusp of, and again, I'm not the gold standard by any stretch. I've been unbelievably blessed to kind of fall my way through some of these situations to be able to be around some of these amazing people that our sport has to provide. Some of it I feel like I've created myself, and some of it I feel like it's just been dumb luck, and I've just been able to connect with a lot of these higher end people, and people too that aren't high end that nobody even knows about on a grand level that are probably just as valuable. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think keeping your eyes open to the whole landscape instead of just the final destination, like, I mean, it's cool to watch that journey. Like I said, man, watching a guy like Buck's journey, or watching some of these guys that are getting into coaching like Jake Hodges now and learning how to dissect. And dude, I was watching one of Jake Hodges' breakdown videos the other night, and watching some of his crab and leg camp video stuff. And I was about to do a crab and leg camp, and I changed the way I taught it based off the way Jake broke it down. Like, Jake's mid-20s, came through our system, and it would be easy for him to just go regurgitate everything me and Roper have taught him, right? But he's going back and he's refining it, and he's trying to think if it still works in today's wrestling world. And dude, that's innovation right there. Like, that's, you know, and like, that fires me up that, man, I'm learning from a guy that came through our system. Like, that's cool stuff. So, right. I mean, I'm excited to see how this thing plays out, and what kind of philosophies and stuff comes through, because you're going to get a lot of different takes from a lot of different people, and it all can be extremely educational to guys like me that are looking for different takes, you know, and from a lot of guys that don't put it out there like I do, you know, like, I mean, imagine
there's a lot of good stories people are missing out on right now, right? I mean, just people aren't willing to put themselves out there or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if somebody like Roper put up a couple technique videos a day or a week. Like, I mean, my biggest thing is, like, when I get around him, I'm like, all right, what's new? What are you working on? This is what I'm working on. And, like, I never walk away with a ton of new concepts and knowledge. You know, imagine if a Corey Cooperman was putting technique out every day. Imagine if some of these guys were, like, putting their stuff out there, and they're not putting it out there because they think people are going to steal it. They're just not those people, right? They're just not social media driven people and content driven people. And it's work. Hammers, you know, he's got this kid Corey Land and some of these other guys that are legit hammers. Like, those would be guys, like, you know, I talked to Jake a little bit, you know, but those would be guys I'd love to sit down and be like, man, what's your approach to practice? What's your approach to training? You know, things like that. And if I can pick up a little snippet here and there from those guys, man, shoot, that gets me better, dude. Because there's only so many hours in the day to watch and listen and get better, right? So, like, if you're talking about specific wrestling philosophy and breakdown and training, man, there's a million avenues for that. You've seen it done a million different ways. You've been around the block. I mean, you got a Jay Muron guy who's dictatorship all day long, right? You're not walking into his room and clowning around. And then you got guys that are a little bit more laid back and a little bit more abstract in the way they coach and teach, you know? So, like, you know, I'm looking forward to it, dude. I'm looking forward to it. I think you're doing a great job so far.
Yeah, we'll see where it heads. You know, it's some good conversation so far. You know, I'm learning as a coach and as a person, and, you know, you mentioned some things. You know, the whole, you know, shutdown. You mentioned with Roper, and the same thing. You know, having these conversations and stories, and I was like, man, these need to be recorded. And you know, it was one of those things. You know, Zeb does his things up here, and that's like, you know, I think I could take a little different take on some things, and just talking to coaches and, you know, learning and having good wrestling conversations. So we'll see where it heads.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, a lot of guys, like, they start out on a path, like, as not as selfish. When you say selfish, it doesn't sound right, but, like, on a selfish kind of note, to be like, man, I want to get some education myself. And it ends up impacting the masses. You know what I'm saying? And you'll start getting DMs from people like, man, thanks for having that guy on that, man, that changed my perspective on some stuff. And that's goes back to the, you're helping other people win vibe. And it's like, man,
there's always going to be new coaches, right?
Better. But now
there's always going to be new coaches. You know what I mean? It's always going to be new coach. Well, we hope, right? New coaches of the sport. Yeah. If they can take a little piece from you or a little piece from whoever, man. Right? And, oh man, I wish I would have heard that 3 years ago. Could have changed some paths, right?
100%. You know, and I'm the same way. I'll still run into some stuff and be like, man, where was this a couple years ago? Why didn't I meet you a couple years ago? But no, man, I'm fired up about it. Looking forward to it. We'll have to run it back.
Nah, thanks for your time, Cliff.
No problem, brother.